at the end of the day, we saw the two best teams in the finals.
Yeah.
And that's something you have to say we did, because the Bucks weren't going to get there. They wouldn't have got through the Celtics. They didn't get through the Heat. So the Bucks were not built for the playoffs. They're built for regular season wins, which they do very well.
At this stage, yeah, that's what it would seem like. There's been a handful of teams that have announced basically that they are not going to be hosting any fans for the start of the season. It's a little bit complicated to get into every single team, but we wanted to have a broad conversation on what we thought. Like, how can you put stock into the bubble and how teams performed versus just a regular season and a regular playoffs if there were fans there? What are your thoughts, Josh?
I think beyond the playoffs, there's not too much difference between what we saw in the bubble and what we would have seen throughout the season. There weren't a lot of shock results.
Right.
There wasn't a lot that happened before the playoffs started. I think the most interesting thing was the way the Phoenix Suns played, but I don't think that has anything to do with the crowds. I think Phoenix were just in a zone. It all happened at the right time.
Yeah.
They all merged and sort of morphed into this incredible
juggernaut
NBA team.
They had good motivation as well, because there was they had a play-in situation basically, and every team was fighting to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
In a more dramatic fashion than normal.
Yeah.
So that obviously influenced how they played.
Definitely.
Obviously other teams as well. They didn't make it, which was unbelievable. 8-0 in the bubble, and they still missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
Say what you want about that. I'm happy that Portland made it, but nonetheless, Phoenix deserved to make it as well.
Yeah.
Both can be true.
Yeah.
Portland and Phoenix deserved to make it, but only one team prevailed. But basically, like, just in a broader sense, I feel like when you have a bubble, in the playoffs, the fans are crucial. Like, absolutely.
100%.
It's such a major part of the game. I think of teams like my Raptors, even the Celtics. Milwaukee has a really good home court advantage. When you take that out of the equation, you could argue that the better team wins because it's just pure basketball in some sense.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's just the way the league has been for so many years. There's never been anything like this, a pandemic of this magnitude that's affected the world like this. There have been other pandemics, but just in terms of the NBA, there's been no effect like this in recent memory. So, like, the fans not being there would have affected a lot of players. I'm sure there's players that they get the juice from the crowd reactions.
I think the other way around too. Like, you saw players like Jamal Murray and TJ Warren who had good seasons.
Yeah.
And then they come into the bubble where there's no crowd, there's no outside noise, literally, and they're able to perform at a whole other level.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much you can put into that Boston-Miami series.
It's really tough.
It is.
Both teams. Because you think about, like, a game, like game 6 would have been in Miami. No, it would have been in Miami because Boston was a higher seed.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
I mean, they won game 6.
Yeah.
But they lost game 5. No, sorry. I have it all mixed up. The home court advantage, will just suffice to say, would have made a big difference in that series in particular. I feel like the Raptors may have been able to pull out a win against Boston, not just speaking as a homer, if they had home court, because the Raptors' home court advantage is one of the best in the league. It has been for years, even if it hasn't resulted in wins necessarily. But the crowd is so amped in Toronto.
Yeah.
And, Jurassic Park is second to none. So stuff like that really makes a difference. And also just the fan experience. Like, you can't... The Lakers winning a championship, imagine being able to celebrate that in Los Angeles if they wouldn't have... Again, the series in the finals is affected by multiple things. Maybe the series doesn't go to 6. The Lakers win in 5 in Los Angeles. They get to celebrate. I just think it's such a big part of it. And, there's other things too, like the bubble having no travel. You're walking around the bubble, seeing the same people.
Yeah.
Reportedly, anyway, I wasn't there, unfortunately. But just seeing the opponents, even the players and teams that you're playing in that very series at the time, it's got to be a bit weird and jarring. You get in the elevator with someone that you're competing against. You're like, hey, how you doing?
I think at the end of the day, though, I guess it's like us on court, and this is really, this is wild. But you go from, you're playing in a competitive situation where, you're so caught up in the situation that's happening right in front of you that once it ends, it's just a game. It's just sport.
Yeah. No, it's bigger than basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they finish that game, once the final buzzer sounds, they're just people. They're literally just guys that know each other very well because they're all in the same space. The NBA is so small.
It's a tight-knit community. It might not seem like that because it's a global sport, but you're right.
It is so small. Everyone knows everyone. And I think
that's right.
When you get down to the bubble and the situation that they were in there, the teams that were there at the end of the day are the teams that treated the bubble like business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Miami said. Jimmy Butler
came out and said that my family's not coming here because I'm working.
It's a business trip.
I'm here to work. And the teams that treated the bubble as work and as a business situation.
As a job. Doing their job.
Exactly. They were just doing their job. They were just out there playing basketball, going back to their hotel. They were on the road the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much stock you can put into teams performing in the playoffs, in the bubble playoffs, the bubble-offs. But, it just is what it is. I don't think there's more you can really put into it other than those guys were just out there playing basketball. It just
pure
felt...
basketball.
I liked it. Personally,
no, it was great.
The finals didn't feel like the finals. That's the only thing I can take away from that bubble situation. But everything else leading into it, the playoffs, the Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals were competitive, and they felt very competitive. They felt, like playoff games.
Yeah.
But then I think when you get to the finals, you want it to be a bigger occasion.
It's a celebration of the sport, really.
Yeah.
The two top teams, the ultimate in competition, that sort of thing. I understand exactly what you mean. It felt underwhelming.
It was disappointing coming off such an amazing final series the year before, where there was just so much. It was such a roller coaster series.
Exactly. Think of the
Raptors Warriors.
The difference between the two of them.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump away from the mic. The difference between the two of them, you had the Warriors and the Raptors, two of the best home court advantages you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then completely eliminated for Miami Lakers. That would have been a great Lakers fans, Heat fans.
Yeah.
It would have been an awesome atmosphere.
Two of the most storied franchises. I mean, Heat way newer.
Championship wise.
Way newer, but
they are. I agree.
Very traditional franchises. They have a very large fan base. They're both big market teams. It would have been an amazing series going from the East Coast to the West and all the way east, all the way west.
Yeah.
It would have been a really nice series to see in their respective home courts. I wasn't disappointed by the series. I just thought that it was missing that element of
you can't really
that
avoid
exposure.
That.
Yeah, and I was
true.
Also upset that they were missing, Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic. So, they weren't playing their best.
I know.
Goran missed most of the series. Bam wasn't 100%. So
he was probably operating at 90, probably maybe
not
95.
Even. I don't even think he was there.
No,
we didn't see Bam Adebayo in that final series.
The guy that was doing work in the Celtics series definitely didn't.
No, man.
Understandably so, but you're right.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is, at the end of the day, we saw the two best teams in the finals.
Yeah,
and that's something you have to say we did, because the Bucks weren't going to get there. They wouldn't have got through the Celtics. They didn't get through the Heat. So the Bucks were not built for the playoffs. They're built for regular season wins, which they do very well
at this stage. Yeah, that's what it would seem like.